Hey, what's going on, y'all? It is yours truly once again. If you haven't checked out part one of this video, I highly encourage you to check that out first before you watch this finale. But to continue on, today I'll just be going over about just two other types of two other types of females per se. I think in part one I talked about how females can be like cars that are for rent and those that are for sale. In this finale, I'll be talking about how females can also be more or less like used cars or cars that have been rebuilt or restored per se. So, uh, yeah, let's get on with this used car part, right? So the used cars are, of course, when you buy a used car, sold as is, right? You see that sign on it. Sold as is, no warranty. But you got to pay a high price for that vehicle. It seems like whoever's selling that car, that's a used car, sold as is, with no warranty, they're going to charge a lot for you to buy that car because really the owner is just trying to make some money on that car. It's a lemon. He needs a lemonade. So that lemonade for him is just charging a little more for that car for what it is worth because he knows that someone out there just needs a car. So they'll probably be more than willing to spend the money on it. So a used car reminds me a lot of these chicks that have hit the wall already. They always trying to put a price on themselves, right? Like what I mean by that price is a standard. They got the standard set so high. Only a chick that has hit the wall or the biological clock has ran out. They only do this because that's what the wall really is. The wall is a woman's biological clock. And so basically, when her biological clock runs out, that's when she has hit the wall. But after she's hit the wall, she's still trying to find some life because maybe she survived that collision. But she's still kind of, from that point on, her value just continues to depreciate. But she's still trying to have some type of value for herself. So what's the next thing you do after you hit the wall? You try to have all these high standards instead of accepting that really more or less your value is just going to continue to be what it is, not what you're trying to make it out to be. But the owners of these cars, per se, getting back to the cars, they understand this, that the car ain't worth its true value and price that he's setting on that car. But he knows that some people won't probably be thinking about that, and he can get away with it. Just as with these chicks do that have hit the wall. They think they can get away with setting standards so high and then find a guy that's going to settle for them. He's straight up being a simp, and he's just going to accept her as is, no warranty. Because these chicks more or less be like, hey, you got to accept me for who I am, or you can kick rocks. This is me. This is who I am. Regardless of what I've done, this is who I am. Accept me for who I am in all that I am, or kick rocks. So you get that kind of talk from them. But see, overall, yeah, you see that when you see a used car with the little ticket on the window saying sold as is, no warranty, what's the first thing you do? Or what's the first thing you ask the owner of that car that's selling that to you? What's the mileage on the car, right? Either you're going to get the answer from the owner or you're going to jump in the driver's seat. You're going to open the door, get in the driver's seat, look at the odometer, or you might have to turn the key and see what the odometer is. That's if the battery is actually working in that car. I ain't going to get too deep with all that part, but y'all get the drift. So you got basically a chick that's hit the wall. She got a high body count. So that's equivalent, or that's a byproduct of the high mileage that she has on her body. So she has rapidly depreciated. When you're dealing with these cars, what you do, you check out the Carfax. You see if it has hit the wall, right? You see if it's been in any type of accidents or things like that. You see if it has a certain paper trail. You might get a car with no title. That's another story altogether. We're not going to go there, but just giving you an idea, you're just looking at his past history, his paper trail. So that's why, I've been seeing kind of some talks on YouTube lately about some guys not caring about body count or caring about her past. You know what? The only time you don't think about someone's past is if you're just going to accept them for who they are anyway, and you don't care, even though you're not thinking about that there's a consequence to your decision making. So At least what I'm trying to do prior to that, if I am accepting, I'm buying a used car, I still want to know something about that car before I just jump in it. I'm not just going to jump in any car, pay this owner and drive off, not knowing if I'm going to even make it home with that car. I got to at least make it home with that car. Okay? Then I can go from there thinking about what all needs to be done with that car, go from there. So, but a lot of guys these days, they simp so much in regards to females, if you will. They just accept them for who they are. They don't do no research. They don't ask her no questions. They don't ask her about her past. They just deal with her for who she is, not for who she's become. You got to think about how she became the way that she is. And if she doesn't want to talk to you about it, you walk away. You walk away. She starts saying things like, well, why does that matter? Why that got to be part of our discussion? Especially if, like on my end, I'm coming to you, I'm telling you about me, but you're not telling me about you. Or in essence, you don't want to hear about me, and I really don't know much about you. That's because you don't want to be caught up in it. That's the past. Well, the past is important. Okay? The past is important. But you don't want to talk about it. Okay, so let's just go our separate ways. I won't invest in that situation. I won't invest in the used car that you are, sweetie. But yeah, just going forward with what I'm trying to say. Yeah, most of these chicks that are like these used cars, as is, if you will, they promote themselves as is, no warranty. A lot of these type of chicks are not humble. You know, just like with the used car, when you get it overall, I guess for the lack of better words, it's lack of humility, more or less, what the used car is. You see how filthy the car is. You see that it's got wires all over the place. The engine is dirty. The car is dirty. Got rust all over it. It might have traces of impact because it hit the wall. You see that the car is just a mess, right? And so, you start the car, the muffler jacked up. Yes, that's accepting the car literally as is. And so you get a chick who what? Grumpy. She sound like that bad muffler. When she talking to you, oh, I ain't got time to talk about that. Talk like that, grumpy. Like the bad car with the bad muffler. She sound like that type of engine. Her body is out of whack. She ain't been taking care of her body. She looked a little filthy, probably. Her shoes probably filthy. It's kind of cool, ironically. It's kind of cool if you know a chick that got a car, because that says a lot about her. Check how dirty her car is. Yeah, check how dirty her car is. That'll say a lot about her, too. So that's another step, because, yeah, I wonder what your house is like if your car is this bad. Even though we do live in a weird world, you might have somebody that has a clean home, they just have a dirty car. But I think it really goes hand in hand. But at the same time, maybe it don't, because there are times my car is dirty too, but my home is pretty decent. I just haven't had time to clean up my car. But I don't know. I'm just saying, sometimes it could be a good gauge, with some females. Like, you can get an idea of how they are just based on how they take care of their car, ironically. But here nor there. But yeah, overall, still with a lot of these chicks with a high body count that are like these cars that are used, a lot of them still think they got it. They're not humble. A lot of them still think they got it, but they're not even worth it. Most, for most used cars out there, they're not worth it, obviously. And for a lot of these chicks that have hit the wall, that are used cars, in the way that they are, they're not worth it either. They are just one turn key away, one push start away from absolute failure, to where, their crankshaft just seizes. It locks up. The battery is going to die in them. The suspension is going to fall off of them, right? The crankshaft, the drive shaft, that's going to pop off, right? Boom, transaxle. Let's say you got a sports car. Most sports cars do not have transmissions. They have transaxles. So it's basically a transmission at the back of the rear axle. But yeah, that could fall off too. Who knows? Muffler, window, you name it. So a lot of these chicks are like that. They got other things that's finna fall off about them that you're not even aware of. But you taking her as is, right? She gonna fall off. She might go MIA on you, meaning she gonna be missing in action. She just gonna disappear. You'll never hear from her. She just stopped calling and texting you for some reason. I guess because at that moment, you kind of gave her a certain type of leverage. She used you for just that moment or that situation. Just like that car kind of, the whole situation with that used car not lasting long, okay? It may have gotten you from point A to point B for a few weeks, but it really overall hasn't helped you. If anything, the owner, he got his cut of the money. He's off doing his thing. And this chick kind of the same way. You kind of got around with her, maybe had a few little weeks with her or whatever, but now she's gone, right? You probably spent money and time on her, but now she got away with it. She going off doing her own thing. But yeah, a lot of these chicks still think they have it. They still think they can go through these auctions too. Still be pretty much getting the highest bidder that's going to bid for them. Now, see, the highest bidder, that's like the simp. The simps, they always want to be the highest bidder for these chicks. They want to put in everything, put in their time and their money and materialistic things. They want to be the highest bidder for these chicks that are very much at the high mileage end of everything. They're just one turnkey, one push start away from absolute failure. Maybe even they're on the auction lot. I've done car auctions before. I've had to be around cars and drive cars that literally broke down on me at the auction block. And I had to push the car off the auction block. The bidder just walked away from the deal, unless he just really liked that car. Maybe he still thought about keeping it. That brings up another sector of what I want to talk about now. So we're going to get off the used cars. We're going to get off into the rebuild, the restoration type of cars, right? And so chicks, there are some females out there that actually could still have potential to be real women. And they are what I call the rebuild type of chicks, the ones that you can actually restore. How does this occur, right? She's already hit the wall. What is there for you to do with her? But what if I were to tell you that it's a no-brainer that if there's a rare type of car out there, whether it is a Bugatti, we ain't talking about the new Bugatti, maybe some new Bugattis too, but I'm talking about these older Bugatti, these pre-war Bugattis that were part of the old Grand Prix. I've seen Bugattis that people have pulled up from these lakes. But what if I were to tell you that these old type of cars, some people are still willing to restore these cars? Some of these cars to them are so much of a beauty that they don't even want to restore it. They just want to have it. They just want to hold on to it, right? Because they understand its importance. And maybe along the way, things just have happened to that car. So that's what really has determined the value of this car and why it is worth the rebuild, worth the restoration. What makes a chick that's reformed different than a chick that just been used up? It's just more or less that the chick that is reformed probably wasn't necessarily a thought. She wasn't necessarily a chick that hit the wall in a way that these thoughts have hit the wall. Because every woman will have to go through this idea of approaching the wall, but it's what you do amongst approaching the wall. And maybe the woman that approached the wall didn't quite hit the wall the same way that the female that's a thought hit the wall. She more or less could have climbed over the wall to a certain extent. But I'd say maybe not, because, obviously she hasn't had a real man in her life. So she still had to deal with the wall one way or another. She still hit the wall too. Now, having a righteous man in your life will help you with actually overcoming the whole wall situation. But without that righteous man in your life, whether you're a good woman or just a typical female, you're just going to hit the wall too. But the thing with a real woman, at least, if she hits the wall, it's not as bad as with the typical females out here that hit the wall. So what I mean by this is this goes back to the whole value. Like when it comes to in regards to like I said, those old pre-war Bugattis, or maybe some old pre-war Alfa Romeos, maybe some Delahaye's, right? Maybe some of them. I'm trying to think of some other kind of cars. But just a lot of beautiful cars that are worth concours restorations. You see them at the Concours d'Elegance. These kind of cars, even a Porsche 911 GT1. Let's say it crashed at the 24-hour Le Mans. There's an owner out there that sees this car has a certain type of pedigree. It's still worth a restoration. So with a woman, not a typical female, but a woman that is worth that restoration, it's one that still has a certain pedigree about her, like that racing car, a certain pedigree that it has, a certain type of quality. And this is whether it is a racing car or not. It's just, it had a certain type of level of ambiance, luxury. What if it was an old Maybach? Yes, it's not Maybach, it's Maybach. That's how you pronounce it. Get it right. What if it was an old Maybach that, it was just such a car that was worthy of that restoration? What if it was an old Renault DS? These type of cars that have a certain pedigree that despite the fact that it's gone through some things in life, it's worth a restoration. You want to kind of bring it back. You want to give it a second life. And so you see that about a certain woman that's kind of gone through some things in life. She hasn't always been the way that she is. She's just had a little rough. She's still a decent woman though. She talks to you good. She don't come off as like a chick with thought tendencies per se. She might have had it a little rough, but she's still nice. She's still kind. She still talk to you with decency. Okay, a man could think about that and say, you know what? You worth this rebuild. So more or less at that point in her life, she might not necessarily be of wifey material, obviously, because she's gone through the whole phase of life. Her biological clock has ticked out, basically meaning that she hit the wall. So she's kind of, at a different place in her life where she still would, I would say, for the lack of better words, she still could be accepted by the righteous man upon him helping her to be reformed and restored and her willingness to go through this process, right? So, and there's cars out there that I know on a lot of different fronts, they, some of them aren't even running that these people buy for restoration and to rebuild. Some of these cars ain't running. I've seen just cars that are just bare bones, no engine, no suspension, just a shell. But you got that body though, right? And so you might run into a woman like that. She still got that body though, right? She's starting to kind of depreciate slightly, but she still got something to work with, still something tangible, still something that you can try to remold and maybe rehashtag. New unicorn, hashtag new unicorn. So that's what you see out of a chick like that. So here's what I'm getting at with this. Okay, how do you really define a chick that you would call a rebuild chick or a restored chick? Okay, she's not really at this point of being wifey material no more because she hit the wall, but she can still be, as the Bible called, a concubine. Now, I won't use the term concubine. I know that sounds old and ancient to some, and I understand it kind of has a certain type of stigma to it for some people. So instead of concubine, say this. Say this instead. I don't say concubine. I just say significant other. Okay, so yeah, that's what you would call a woman like that. She may not necessarily be wife of material, but she still can be a decent woman in your life. She can still be a significant other. And instead of just using the word concubine, just say significant other. And I know some of y'all like, well, I hear that term all the time, but y'all really don't understand the trueness of what that term should be and how it should be applied. So my definition of a woman that is a significant other is she's an other that is significant to me. Okay, so this could imply some type of polygyny to a certain extent, I would say. Well, heck, I'm going to just go all in. It is polygyny, okay? And I'm going to tell you why it is polygyny. And it's a great thing for me. I'm not trying to put this idea on other people. And I'm going to tell you why it's great for me. Because she's an other that is significant. She's an other that is significant to me. She is that significant other. Now, let's think on the mindset of a man that has multiple cars. Okay. He has a Lamborghini Aventador in his driveway. He has a Pagani Zonda in his driveway. Okay. He has a Bentley Bentayga in his driveway. All right. Let's see. Let's think of another type of car he may have in his driveway. He may have an Aston Martin Rapide in his driveway, or maybe even a Lagonda Taraf, if some of y'all know what that is. But then, oh yeah, let's add this. He got a Lamborghini Urus. Yeah, I had to say Lamborghini again. That Urus is dope. Okay, but out of all them cars he has in his driveway, he also has a 1967 Shelby GT500 that he got restored. And he calls her Eleanor. Okay? So, in light of a man that has these cars and he still has that Shelby GT500 that he calls Eleanor, the same can be said about a significant other type of woman in my life. Despite the other women that I know in my life, this is my significant other. Despite maybe a wife I may have, I still have a significant other. She's an other that is significant to me. So, of course, all parties understanding. My wife understands who the significant other is in my life. Everybody understands. It's all consensual. Nothing to hide. So I ain't cheating on nobody. This is just part of the multiple women, multiple cars, kind of putting two and two together. So, but let's get back to this woman, because you don't have to necessarily have multiple cars or multiple women. But let's still keep in mind that this particular woman that you consider a significant other, she can still be a significant other in a monogamous situation. And what I mean by that is she's just that significant other that you didn't think that you would have been restoring. That was someone that you thought, she basically, let me rephrase that. She's basically someone that you thought about as still having great potential, maybe at being a wife to a certain extent in your life, or just that one woman that you're committed to at that particular time. She's worth that restoration. You probably, like, as far as cars, you probably don't have no other cars, but you're gonna put your all into the Shelby GT500. Okay, get that restored, turn her into an Eleanor. A certain woman in my life, she has a messed up past, but she's still a decent woman. Baby, I'm gonna turn you into an Eleanor. So overall, here's the thing. Like, a chick like that who is a rebuild, she could be one that had a high body count, or she can have a low body count. It don't matter. But she's worth the restoration. I see the type of woman that she is, and she is worth me restoring. But you can be one that and why I say it don't matter that it's high body count or low body count, because let's say a chick is low body count, but she still has to be rebuilt. If we're talking on cars, a car with high mileage is equivalent to a chick that has a high body count. Okay, and of course, a car with low miles is a car equivalent to a chick with low body count. But see, here's the thing. How does that equate to the restoration for a car with low miles? How does that need to be restored? Well, because some people have cars in their garages that they haven't not even driven. They just have low miles, but they've been sitting there stationary. And so that collects dust. That still gets certain types of rust. You can still get rats, build nets in a car like that. You may have an owner that actually buries their car. Some people cherish their cars so much that they just bury their cars underneath the ground. It's crazy, but it's true. So you may have a woman that's been through certain things. She may not have a high body count. She may have a low body count, but she's been put on ice. She's been put on blocks by somebody. She hasn't really been to a lot of places. She hasn't really experienced a lot of things in her love life. Or she may just have a mundane type of life. She just goes to work, go to school. That's it. But that to me is still stationary. You're not doing much with your life. And so now you're at a point in your life where you look back, you haven't really been able to accomplish having a decent man in your life, having children, things like that. But you're still worth the restoration, just because on the strength alone that you may have always wanted to know what that's like, but just never had that chance. And you want that chance, and you're willing to surrender yourself to a man that's going to give you that chance of this restoration. You still got some life in you, sweetie. Don't give up. Just be willing for that man to put that life back in you. That he knows that despite the little life that you have, he still sees some life that's left in you. He'll help you get a second life. I know you may not even feel at this moment you are wifey material to a certain extent, but you are still in many ways a great significant other. You are that other thing that man has in his life if he's on the monogamous stuff. But on the polygynous tip, you may be the type of woman that you are very significant in his life, despite the other women that he knows in his life. You have an important role in his life. You are that Eleanor that he is going to restore. To kind of sum some of these things up, just talked about earlier on about how some of these chicks can be like used cars. And that explains a lot of these thoughts out here. Sold as is, no warranty. Whether they were the enterprise rent-a-thoughts, basically these rental chicks that have become used cars, or they could have at one time been a car that was owned as a pre-owned, but now you're just on the used market because you got too much high mileage. And you're still going to say yourself, as is, no warranty. I talked about that, and I just talked about how a woman, a real woman, is not trying to be like a thought who is sold as is. She's worth a restoration just based on the way she is, despite what she's had to go through in her lifetime. Because overall, I believe for a woman that needs to be restored and she becomes that way, every woman's supposed to be under a man's covering. A woman should not technically be single. If you haven't been married to a man, you should at least still be with your parents, or you should be under a man's covering. If you're not his wife, he still has you under his covering. You're still part of his union. Maybe just not a wife union, but you're still part of his union. You're still connected to that man. He's still going to look out for you. You are literally under his roof of many different cars, if you will. And he's going to take care of you. He ain't going to forget about you. And you're never going to feel cheated on. But with this Me Too movement, unfortunately, you look at a lot of these females you got to treat like cars. You know, with certain nice looking cars, you can look but don't touch. You got a lot of that with these females. They wearing all these scantily clad clothing. You can look but can't touch. You know, even looking to a certain extent now can get you caught up in the law. I don't even try to look at a lot of females these days when I walk out. I walk with my head down for the most part so that I don't attract any wrong attention. Unless she got an eye for me, then that way, hey, you got an eye for me, baby, I'm going to definitely have an eye for you. And then we can go from there. But overall, just dress up modest, ladies, dress up more modestly. You know, it seems more or less with the more scantily clad chicks, you know, y'all should be dressed up looking like that behind closed doors. Y'all want to look that exotic and that exclusive? Come to think of it, when it comes to a lot of these new cars, in regards to them, if you will, a lot of manufacturers are now only unveiling these more exotic cars to select buyers, certain buyers who can afford these cars. They're not even publicly available for display no more. And so this is so for how a woman should be. She should make herself so exclusive that she doesn't publicly show off her body and things like that. You dress up more modestly, you know? So, but overall, just to kind of come to a close with this finale, I just hope everybody got some feedback, some that you can put in the comment section below. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Put the likes up, like, share, subscribe. But I'll leave y'all with this. Don't settle for something that will basically be junk overall. Whether it's a car, no matter what it is. If it ain't gonna be a lemonade to you, don't accept the lemon if you can't make lemonade out of it. And that's with every situation, not just a car. Not just a car. It could be a different job. It could be a different person. I don't care. If you can't make lemonade out of the lemon, you might as well keep it moving. Let it rot. Let it sit on the lot to rot. Let it sit on the tree branch to rot. Whatever. Let it fall from the tree and rot. Whatever. I don't care. But don't ever use someone to get to the next level either, though. You know, because sometimes it kind of be like that with a car. You kind of buy a car and you just use that as a get by. In real life, you know, like these cars will only get you by so far. And just as it is with a person, don't let no one use you as a get by. Don't use them as a get by. You will only get so far and they will only get with you so far. Don't become a user. Sometimes we run into the wrong people though. Just as you might run into a car that is a lemon. You know, you might just run into the wrong people. It is what it is. You know, just count your losses, but make that less of an occurrence. But if that does happen at that point, treat it as a lesson, since that person hasn't been a blessing. Signing out.